Retirement is often imagined as a finish line, a moment when the pressure eases, the worries fade, and life finally slows down enough to be enjoyed. But for many people, the reality feels very different. The numbers don't stretch as far as they once did, the savings don't provide the comfort that was expected, and the quiet moments that were supposed to feel peaceful sometimes feel heavy with concern. If you're finding yourself in retirement with less money than you planned for, you are not alone. This experience is far more common than people openly admit. Many retirees quietly carry the same question in their minds, wondering how they miscalculated, where things went off track, and whether it's still possible to feel secure with what they have now. This isn't a story about failure. It's a story about adjustment, resilience, and learning how to live well even when expectations change. One of the first emotional challenges people face when money feels tight in retirement is the sense of shock. Even those who planned carefully can feel blindsided when real life doesn't match the spreadsheets. Costs rise in unexpected ways, medical expenses appear without warning, market changes affect income streams, and suddenly the retirement lifestyle that once felt achievable begins to feel fragile. Many retirees describe this moment as unsettling, not just financially, but emotionally, because it shakes the belief that planning guarantees certainty. What makes this especially difficult is that retirement removes many of the safety nets that existed during working life. When income was steady, a surprise expense could often be absorbed by working a little longer or earning a little more. In retirement, that flexibility often disappears. This can create a quiet anxiety that lingers in the background, even on good days. Learning to survive and even thrive under these conditions begins with understanding that this anxiety is a natural response, not a personal weakness. One of the most important shifts retirees make when money is tighter than expected is redefining what security actually means. During working years, security is often associated with growth, accumulation, and upward movement. In retirement, security becomes more about stability, predictability, and control over essentials. This shift doesn't happen overnight, and many people resist it at first, clinging to old definitions that no longer fit their reality. But once this mental adjustment begins, it often brings a surprising sense of relief. A common mistake retirees make in this situation is focusing too heavily on what they've lost rather than what remains. Comparing today's reality to past expectations can drain energy and amplify stress. Many people find themselves replaying old decisions, wondering what they should have done differently. While reflection can be useful, constant regret rarely leads to solutions. The retirees who adapt best are often those who accept their current position fully and begin working forward from where they are, not where they hope to be. Living with tighter finances in retirement often requires a closer look at daily spending habits, but not in a harsh or punishing way. This is not about depriving yourself of joy or turning life into a constant exercise in restriction. Instead, it's about awareness. Many retirees are surprised to discover how small, recurring expenses quietly erode their sense of security. Subscriptions, convenience purchases, and habits formed during higher income years can continue unnoticed until they create pressure. One retiree shared how she didn't feel poor, but she constantly felt uneasy. When she finally tracked her spending for a few months, she realized it wasn't the big expenses causing stress. It was the accumulation of small ones that added up to a persistent shortfall. Once she adjusted a few habits, not drastically but thoughtfully, her anxiety began to ease. The money didn't suddenly increase, but her confidence did. Another emotional hurdle is the fear of running out. This fear often overshadows enjoyment, even when finances are technically sufficient. People begin to hesitate before every purchase, second-guess every decision, and feel guilty about spending on anything that isn't strictly necessary.
Over time, this can shrink life in unhealthy ways. Surviving retirement with limited funds doesn't mean living in constant fear. It means learning how to balance caution with permission to enjoy what you have. This balance often starts by separating essential expenses from emotional spending. Essentials include housing, food, health care, and basic transportation. Emotional spending includes the things that bring comfort, connection, and meaning. When money feels tight, people often try to eliminate emotional spending entirely, believing it's irresponsible. But retirees who do this frequently report feeling empty, isolated, and disconnected. The goal is not elimination, but intention. Choosing fewer emotional expenses that truly matter can be far more satisfying than cutting them all. Another overlooked aspect of surviving retirement with limited funds is flexibility. Retirement plans that are too rigid often create stress when reality shifts. Those who adapt best are usually willing to revise expectations, routines, and even identities. This might mean redefining travel, adjusting housing arrangements, or finding new ways to socialize that don't revolve around spending money. Flexibility doesn't mean giving up dignity or joy. It means allowing life to take a different shape than originally imagined.
Social comparison can be particularly damaging during this phase. Seeing others travel freely, renovate homes, or spend generously can intensify feelings of inadequacy. Many retirees admit they avoid social situations because they feel embarrassed about their finances. This isolation only makes things worse. It's important to remember that appearances rarely tell the full story. Many people who seem financially comfortable are quietly struggling too. Measuring your well-being against someone else's highlight reel is rarely helpful. Health also plays a critical role when money is tighter than expected. Physical and mental health challenges can quickly strain limited resources. Preventative care, routines, and healthy habits become even more valuable in retirement, not just for longevity, but for financial stability. Retirees who prioritize their health often find they reduce long-term costs while improving daily quality of life. This doesn't require expensive programs or memberships. Simple routines like walking, cooking at home, and maintaining social connections can have a powerful impact. One man shared how, after retiring, he neglected his health because he felt discouraged about money. Over time, small issues became bigger problems, leading to higher medical costs and more stress. When he finally committed to basic self-care, not as a luxury, but as a necessity, his confidence improved. He felt more capable of handling financial uncertainty because he felt stronger in his body and mind. Another key element of surviving retirement with less money than expected is purpose. Work often provides structure, identity, and social interaction. When work ends and money feels tight, people can feel doubly adrift. Purpose doesn't have to come from income. Many retirees find meaning through volunteering, mentoring, hobbies, or community involvement. These activities often cost little or nothing, but provide immense emotional return. Purpose helps shift focus away from scarcity and toward contribution. It's also important to talk openly about money, even when it's uncomfortable. Many retirees suffer in silence, believing they should have it figured out by now. Talking with trusted family members, friends, or professionals can reduce isolation and open up new options. Sometimes a fresh perspective reveals solutions that weren't previously considered. Silence often magnifies fear, while conversation brings clarity. As this journey continues, it becomes clear that surviving retirement with less money than expected is not about perfection. It's about awareness, adaptability, and self-compassion. This chapter of life can still hold meaning, connection, and peace, even when finances feel constrained. The path forward begins by letting go of shame and recognizing that worth is not measured by net worth.
As the initial shock of realizing money is tighter than expected begins to settle, many retirees enter a second phase that's quieter but just as challenging. This is the phase where daily life becomes the testing ground. The numbers are no longer abstract. They show up in grocery aisles, utility bills, medical appointments, and social invitations. It's here that survival turns into a series of small, repeated choices, each one shaping how retirement actually feels. One of the most difficult adjustments during this phase is learning how to say no without feeling diminished. Saying no to trips, gifts, dining out, or spontaneous plans can stir up feelings of embarrassment or loss. Many retirees describe feeling as though they're shrinking their lives. But those who move through this phase successfully learn a different skill: reframing. They stop seeing no as a failure and start seeing it as a form of protection of peace, stability, and long-term comfort. This reframing often begins with honesty, both internally and externally. It means acknowledging limits without judgment. Externally, it means letting go of the urge to explain or justify every decision. Many retirees find relief when they realize they don't owe detailed financial explanations to anyone. A simple, calm response is enough. Over time, this confidence grows and social interactions feel less stressful. Another major shift involves redefining comfort. During working years, comfort often means convenience: eating out, upgrading regularly, outsourcing tasks. In retirement, especially when money is tighter, comfort becomes more about familiarity and control. Cooking at home, maintaining routines, and simplifying environments begin to feel grounding rather than restrictive. Retirees who lean into this shift often describe feeling more settled, even if their lifestyle looks smaller from the outside. Housing plays a central role in this adjustment. For some, staying put makes sense emotionally but stretches finances. For others, downsizing or relocating feels intimidating but eventually freeing. There is no universal right answer, only the answer that balances cost, health, and peace of mind. What matters most is facing the question honestly rather than avoiding it out of fear or sentimentality. Delaying decisions often increases stress and reduces options.
Many retirees struggle with the emotional weight attached to their homes. A house holds memories, identity, and a sense of accomplishment. Letting go can feel like letting go of a life chapter. But those who do make changes often say the hardest part was the decision itself. Once settled into a space that fits their current needs, they feel lighter, less burdened, and more secure. Survival sometimes means choosing practicality over nostalgia, even when it hurts a little at first. Daily routines also take on new importance when money is limited. Without the structure of work, days can blur together, and that lack of structure can amplify anxiety. Retirees who create gentle routines often feel more grounded. Simple habits like morning walks, regular meal times, or weekly check-ins with loved ones provide rhythm and predictability. These routines cost nothing, yet they create a sense of order that money alone cannot provide. Another overlooked challenge is decision fatigue. When finances feel tight, every choice can feel heavy. Should I buy this? Can I afford that? What if I need the money later? Over time, this constant evaluation can become exhausting. Some retirees cope by setting clear boundaries in advance. For example, creating a modest monthly enjoyment fund removes the need to analyze every small purchase. The decision is already made. This reduces stress and restores a sense of agency. Healthcare decisions often bring the most anxiety. Medical costs can feel unpredictable and uncontrollable. Retirees with limited funds may delay care out of fear, which often leads to worse outcomes. Those who survive this phase best usually take a proactive approach. They stay informed, ask questions, and focus on preventative care whenever possible.
They also recognize that their health is an investment, not a luxury. Mental health deserves just as much attention. Financial strain can quietly lead to isolation, sleep issues, or persistent worry. Many retirees underestimate how much emotional support matters during this time. Talking openly with someone trusted can relieve pressure that has been building for months or even years. There is strength in acknowledging fear rather than pretending it doesn't exist. Another shift that often surprises retirees is how relationships change when money is tighter. Some friendships fade, especially those built around spending. Others deepen, particularly those based on shared values, conversation, and time, rather than activities. Retirees who embrace simpler forms of connection often discover richer relationships. A walk, a phone call, or a shared meal at home can feel more meaningful than expensive outings ever did. This phase also brings an opportunity to reassess what truly brings joy. Many retirees realize that some things they once valued were more about status or habit than genuine happiness. When money limits choices, clarity often emerges. People begin to invest time and energy in fewer things, but those things matter more. This narrowing can feel like loss at first, but it often leads to deeper satisfaction. There is also a quiet confidence that develops when retirees successfully navigate this stage. Each challenge met, each adjustment made, reinforces the belief that they can handle uncertainty. This confidence doesn't come from having more money. It comes from knowing how to live within reality without being defined by it. Over time, fear loosens its grip, replaced by steadier ground. Some retirees describe this phase as a recalibration. Life doesn't end, it changes frequency, slower, quieter, more deliberate. The noise of constant striving fades, replaced by moments of presence. Even with limited finances, many people report feeling more themselves during this time than they did during their working years. Of course, there are still difficult days. Unexpected expenses still sting. Comparison still creeps in, worry still visits, but it no longer dominates every thought. Surviving retirement with less money than expected becomes less about survival in the literal sense and more about emotional resilience, about trusting that you can adapt again, just as you already have. This stage lays the foundation for something important: acceptance without resignation. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means seeing clearly and choosing intentionally. It means building a life that fits who you are now, not who you were 20 years ago or who you thought you would be.
As time passes and the adjustments of earlier phases begin to settle, many retirees reach a quieter stage. The panic is softened, the numbers are familiar, the routines feel natural. Money may still be tighter than expected, but it no longer dominates every thought. This is where survival slowly turns into stability, not because circumstances have dramatically improved, but because perspective has changed. At this stage, retirees often notice that their relationship with money feels different than it once did. Instead of viewing it as a measure of success or failure, it becomes a tool. Limited, yes, but still useful. This shift reduces emotional reactivity. A bill is no longer a personal indictment. A budget adjustment is no longer a crisis. It's simply part of maintaining balance. One of the most powerful developments during this phase is the rebuilding of trust in oneself. Earlier, uncertainty may have shaken confidence. Now, lived experience proves otherwise. Retirees see that they have handled challenges, adapted when necessary, and found ways to maintain dignity and comfort. This self-trust becomes a stabilizing force, especially when new uncertainties arise. Many retirees also discover a deeper appreciation for simplicity. What once felt like deprivation begins to feel like clarity. Fewer commitments, fewer possessions, fewer expectations. Life becomes easier to manage, not because it's empty, but because it's focused. This simplicity often brings a calm that money alone could never buy. Time itself begins to feel different. Without the constant pressure to earn or accumulate, days stretch in gentler ways. Moments are no longer rushed. Retirees who embrace this shift often find joy in small rituals. Morning light through a window, a familiar walk, my favorite cup of tea. These experiences are not distractions from financial reality. They are reminders that life is still happening, fully and meaningfully. Another important realization during this phase is that contribution does not require wealth. Many retirees find fulfillment in offering time, attention, or wisdom, helping a neighbor, listening to a friend, sharing skills built over a lifetime. These acts reinforce a sense of value that isn't tied to income. Purpose remains alive, even when finances are limited. There is also a growing sense of freedom that emerges. Not the freedom of endless choices, but the freedom of knowing what matters. Retirees stop chasing what no longer fits. They become more selective with energy and attention. This selectivity creates space for deeper connection and inner peace. Of course, challenges don't disappear. Health issues may arise. Costs may increase. The future may still feel uncertain at times. But the difference now is resilience. Retirees who reach this stage have learned that they can face difficulty without losing themselves. They've learned that fear passes, that adaptation is possible, and that life continues to offer meaning even when circumstances are imperfect. Another subtle but important shift is how retirees talk to themselves. Earlier, self-criticism may have been loud. Thoughts like, "I should have known better," or "I failed to plan well enough," may have lingered. Over time, these thoughts lose their power. Self-talk becomes kinder, more realistic. Retirees begin to see their journey not as a series of mistakes, but as a response to an unpredictable world. Many people also find peace by letting go of the need to control every outcome. Retirement, especially with limited funds, teaches humility. It reveals how much of life is shaped by forces beyond personal effort. Accepting this doesn't mean giving up responsibility. It means releasing blame, and with that release comes relief. Relationships often deepen during this phase. Honest conversations replace surface-level interactions. Vulnerability becomes a bridge rather than a weakness. Retirees who share their experiences often find others doing the same. This shared understanding reduces loneliness and reinforces the truth that financial struggle in retirement is not rare or shameful. There is also a renewed appreciation for stability itself. Knowing that the basics are covered, even if there is little extra, becomes a source of gratitude. Food on the table, a safe place to live, access to care. These foundations provide enough security to build a meaningful life, even if it looks different than once imagined. Some retirees describe this stage as a quiet victory, not because everything worked out perfectly, but because they learned to live well within reality. They stopped fighting what couldn't be changed and started shaping what could be. This shift transformed survival into acceptance and acceptance into peace. Looking back, many wish they had known earlier that retirement isn't a destination, but a process of adjustment, learning, and redefining success. Money matters, but it is not the sole determinant of well-being. How one responds to limitations often matters far more than the limitation itself. If you are listening to this and still feel anxious about your situation, know that stability often comes gradually, not through sudden financial windfalls, but through accumulated confidence, through small decisions repeated over time, through patience with yourself as you learn a new way of living. Retirement with less money than expected is not the end of a good life. It is simply a different version of it, one that requires creativity, honesty, and resilience. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are adapting. And in that adaptation, there is strength.